Alright, for our final lesson, I am going to show you how to use a spreadsheet to do the calculations that you need to determine a correlation. Again, I have replicated the chart it's on page 132 of your book. And what this shows is 10 students. This is the score they got on their midterm, and this is the score that they got on their final exam. And what we want to determine is what is the relationship or the correlation between these two sets of scores. In order to calculate a correlation by hand, the first thing you would need to do is it would be kind of like doing the variance. You need the deviation and the square deviation for the midterm score. So again, I have calculated the mean and the standard deviation for both of these columns. If you look down here, you will see there's the mean for the midterm, standard deviation for the midterm. So the deviation for the midterm would be 95 minus the mean, which is 79.7, and that gives you a deviation of 15. Then you square that. You do the same for each of these numbers. Again, what I did was once I had my formula calculated, I just needed to drag it down, and it did all of these calculations for me. And you do the same thing. You get the deviation score for the final and the squared deviation score for the final using these formulas. For example, here you see that I've raised g6 to the second power, and I get this number. The product of the deviations, I told it to take this box and multiply them together. And then again, I just dragged it down. And then I took a total of this, a product of the deviations. Now, in order to calculate the correlation, what I did was I took this number here and divided it by the number of observations and the standard deviation of the midterm multiplied by the standard deviation of the final. And I got this number here for the correlation. 0.89 means that there's a positive correlation, so that there's a pretty strong correspondence. The number the score that you got on your midterm is pretty good predictor of the score that you will get on your final exam. So that would be doing it the hard way again, but also you can very simply calculate the same number by going in and using the command correl parenthesis, and then for the first set of information you put in the range of the midterms by dragging down, separate that by a comma, and then put in the range of the finals. And then close that parenthesis, hit return, and it gives you the correlation. Now, another thing you can do quite easily is to make a scattergram. Now, a scattergram represents both of the scores, one in X space and one in Y space. For example, this person got 100 on their midterm and 92 on their final. So if you go over midterm and you go up, a score of 100 is there, and or you go over and you go up here to 92. So you see that this space represents the 100 on the midterm on this axis, and it represents the 92 on the final on this axis. And each pair of scores has that same plotting that shows the relationship between the two scores. In order to get a chart like this, highlight the two sets of scores, go to Insert, click on Scatter. This is the style we want. And this is if you look up here, this will give us a trend line, which kind of shows the slope um, and the direction of the correlation. And there you have it. To get down to here, I just changed the axis so that I think I used a minimum of 50 for my axis. And then you got to change this axis too. Make that a minimum of 50. So double click the number, and it will give you it'll bring up this formatting information. So there I just changed the minimum. Instead of doing automatically going down to 0, I told it to go to 50. So there you have it. This demonstrates how to calculate a correlation quite simply by adding in the range of both numbers, and then also taking your data and making a graphical chart that demonstrates the slope of the correlation. So the interpretation of this again would be there's a rising trend. If you do well on your midterm, you're probably going to do well on your final. If you didn't do as well on your midterm, you might not do as well on your final. All right. So now I have demonstrated how to use your spreadsheet to do simple descriptive and inferential statistics.